Welcome to PHP Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 241.
Yeah, 241. And the last episode, we were talking about, leaving the studio. And this is actually going to be the last episode in this studio. And we will have to change. It's going to be different. We're going to have a different studio setup. But, this is a kind of a bittersweet moment. And the podcast continues to grow and evolve and change. And you know what I love about our podcast, though? I feel like a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos that I watch, like when they change, like when it's like, okay, we're buying a warehouse, we're doing something, like they put everything on pause for a while. And it's we'll be back in a month. Like we just keep going. Like, I don't know, we might be like recording out of our cars for a couple of episodes, but we're going to keep going.
We don't stop. And I appreciate that because, and again, we have a fairly great following as far as like we have a lot of people as far as on social media and that listen to the podcast and YouTube is slowly growing. Actually, a little bit better than slowly now these days. We just keep making videos. But, I remember when I was first reselling and like I would watch people and then out of nowhere they disappear for 2 weeks. And I was like, no. So hopefully, you guys are just, appreciating that we're taking the time to make this podcast. We are disheveled right now. Like both Mike and I'm still in between places. I'm still trying to figure things out. I should have finality by the next time we record this podcast. It may be in my new location or who knows? Who knows? But hey, if you do appreciate our podcast, we really would love it if you hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and hit that bell notification so when you're notified, because subscribing is a big deal, but hitting that notify and hitting that like button means a lot more because it notifies you when videos are dropping and it helps with the YouTube algorithm.
Ooh, the what?
The algorithm. That's what it is.
The YouTube algorithm.
So along with that, comment. So our episode today will be about reselling in a post-COVID world.
Yeah. So while you're commenting, why don't you comment below? How has it been? We've had some episodes where we've talked specifically about, the COVID spike, the initial when COVID happened. We have episodes of like, well, we don't know what's going to happen. The increase. Now we're seeing potential decrease. There's been a lot of changes. So this is like now that the dust has mostly settled. We're not 100% through this thing, but everybody's kind of got a pretty clear picture of things. Things are getting better and things are starting to normalize. And so what's new and changed and what does the reselling world look like now? So let us know below. What's your experience been? How do you think the next year is going to go for you now that we're in this kind of post-COVID time? And let us know your experience and your thoughts. And we'd love to have some interaction with you down there.
It sounds so weird saying post-COVID, right? I mean, we're in California, so not everybody believes we're post-COVID, but Mike and I believe we're post-COVID. And so, I was thinking about this time last year, right? We made an episode we made a few. We made one about, what does the future hold? We made like another one about how to source directly from home. And I remember it was a pretty dark time for about a couple of weeks. Like we didn't know what was going to happen, right? We had no idea. We were recording.
We were like hand sanitizing like every 2 seconds, even while we're recording.
You and I debated like, should we wear masks when we record? Should we even record together? I mean, there was a lot of questions. And then it was like, what's going to happen? Like, is reselling going to be done? Like, I mean, and we all had these real fears. I mean, they were genuine. And then after a month, reselling like took off. Like I think right now my metrics, I'm only 3% above what I was last year at this time, which is still good, right? Because if you remember this time last year, like sales were exploding. Like remember you were talking about some salt and pepper shakers that you had forever that sold?
Yeah.
Right? Remember those? And so everything was selling. And now it's been a year and a lot has changed. And so I thought we should just put together an episode talking about, what do we think a reselling world looks like after COVID? Now, there's a few things that are the same. And this is what I'll say. Before COVID hit, everybody that, does statistics and studies and researches retail and reselling and all that, we're already saying that the space was just going to expand and reselling was only going to go up. And I was looking at one of the stats there's a site called Statista, and they want you to pay for their, stats, but they do have one free stat that they showed me. And I remember before COVID, this was talking about that by 2024, the secondhand apparel market was going to be worth $64 billion. And so I was interested. I was like, hey, is this still the case? Like, is this still the way things are going to be after COVID? So they just released this past January in 2021, and we're still on track. And if you look, they actually said that from 2021 to 2022, we should go from close to 39 billion to 46 billion. Now, do you find this to be true? Do you see this happening, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think the secondhand market's going to continue to grow. I think one of the beautiful things about secondhand market is when times are really bad, people are going to want to buy secondhand. And when times are going good, we end up in a culture where we have people who are trying to be more environmentally conscious. Mm-hmm. They're wanting to there's kind of been people are kind of disenfranchised with the whole like consumerism in the sense of we just got to go buy the newest shiniest thing, and not to say that that's gone. Like most people still believe that, but it's
still heavy too.
Yeah,
like you think about the sports cards market and Pokemon and all those things.
Yeah, so I mean, but people aren't necessarily just wanting brand new shiny toys. People are liking the idea of going to thrift stores and garage sales and getting stuff off of eBay because one, it saves them money, or two, it helps with their conscience or whatever it is. So I think we win in both situations. I think the only time we lose is if the economy was doing super well and we were in a place where nobody cared about, saving money or helping the environment or any of those things that cause people to want to, go secondhand, even when they can afford to buy brand new. So, and I don't see us being in that kind of culture or that kind of environment anytime soon. So I think the secondhand market's going to continue to grow. Now, what's going to matter is, can we get a piece of that pie?
Well, and that's my next point here is that there's a lot more competition now. And let me explain. Let's first talk about on the retail side, right? And we've had so much to talk about in our update episodes, but we had posted on Instagram about that Nike now is selling refurbished shoes. Is it refurbished? I guess that's the word, right? Can you refurbish a pair of shoes?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I think there's you get an alcohol cloth and you just wipe it down, but. Certified, right? Nike's doing that. Patagonia has been doing that. All these different retailers doing it. Now, I think there's a lot of money to be made even from Nike. I've been watching some of the shoe sellers that we follow online, and they're saying there's a great opportunity. If you're willing to pick up Nike refurbished shoes and list them on eBay, there's a lot of money to be made. You can't sell it on StockX. It gets complicated with Go, but on eBay, you can definitely make it happen. Now, the biggest one, I think, the biggest competition for all of us, and again, this is not going to be a full documentary on what's going on. It's also not going to be like everything's bad kind of deal. We do offer solutions, so make sure to stay tuned to the end of the episode. Okay, now, Goodwill. Mike, I think one of the most controversial posts you put on Instagram was when you put the store that shall not be named.
Ooh, the store that shall not be named.
And you put it on social, which is the store I just named a few seconds ago, that they hit $1 billion in sales. Now, why do you think people were heated about that?
Here's the problem is there's two different sides of the spectrum people fall on. One side is people see stores like Goodwill as being a positive thing. They help the community, they provide jobs. And I think there's absolute truth and value in that. The other side of the spectrum sees stores like this as kind of manipulating or taking advantage of. And I think there's validity there too. So it's a really hard thing because it's not a clear cut and dry thing. I think you can have different opinions. And the reality is, it doesn't matter what you think, but when it comes down to it, you can have different opinions on this, but you got some people who, okay, here's one argument. You can say a store like Goodwill is taxed. It's basically a tax-free company. They're running as a nonprofit, but yet their CEO, the highest people on the board are making millions of dollars. And people say, well, they provide jobs. They provide jobs to people. It's like, well, McDonald's provides jobs to people. Like all kinds of companies provide jobs to people. And so people can kind of get heated about the way specifically Goodwill works. And there's other thrift stores in the same, compared to maybe others which really kind of operate as a nonprofit. All of the proceeds are going to other charities and to help things, whereas like kind of the Goodwill money goes to pay for the employees. And that's it. Like they're not doing other things for the most part in the community. Now they are selling things at a cheaper price. So they do provide value, right? So they're providing jobs, they're providing value. So there's goods and bad to that, but it's going to be heated because people tend to fall clearly on one side of the spectrum. And it's hard for people to see, that there's a little bit of nuance there. But again, it doesn't matter what you think. But it does, your opinion.
Let's take a look at, I want to delve into this news story real quick because I think this will give everyone better perspective. Now, I hear a lot of new resellers, they get on the social media space and they're like, hey, don't tag, Goodwill. Don't let people know that you go to the thrift store. They watch your videos. I see them in the background. Now, there is truth to that. Like I even know like my store that I used to go to all the time, they watch my stories all the time. Even when I throw shade at them, they still watch the stories and they're still friendly to me because we're still good friends, right? They understand, that I got a podcast about reselling, so I got to be real about things. And they also understand that, I'm trying to make profit, right? So I need to find good quality items at a good price. So there is a lot going on that they do follow certain people on social media and they watch it, but they've been doing this since the beginning of eBay. Like you can find news articles about the store that shall not be named doing this back in the early 2000s. Okay, so this article that came out, this is directly from shopgoodwill.com. They stated that shopgoodwill.com, right, said half of the billion sales total was earned in just the last 3 years. The site had previously announced hitting the 500 million sales mark in September of 2017. Last year, the site saw nearly 22% growth in sales over the previous year with 171 million in sales. Now, I think a lot of that is due that a lot of the store that shall not be named ended up getting shut down because of COVID. And then they kept getting inventory. I remember certain places had inventory all on the outside. They didn't know what to do. And then they started going, you know what? We can sell more online. And then people started sourcing online too, right? So that also added to, the amount of money they made. Then it says shopgoodwill.com is receiving more than 21 million unique page views each week and currently has more than 2.4 million registered customers. Now, that's not even close to eBay's 80 million. Okay. But that's a large amount of people. The site brings together the best donated items from 129 local Goodwill sellers from across the country. Tens of thousands of items are available for bidding or buy it now, including jewelry, all these items. So they're doing well. They figured out. The question is, are we all going to adapt? Right? And that goes into my next part in a little bit because prices on everything are going up. And I think we're around the corner of having some major inflation happening. Not like pre-war Germany inflation, but I think we're going to have some inflation happening now.
Some might be an understatement.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, man. All right. Well, hey.
Whatever happened to that gold standard, man?
Okay. What the gold standard, that's been gone for a long time.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Now,
by the way, a lot of the advice you get from older people about like the economy and even things like college goes back to when there was a gold standard. So things are very different now.
Oh, that is true. I agree with that. Now, so we've talked about the fact that, hey, reselling is growing. We talked about the fact that there's going to be a lot more competition from retail. And by the way, there's going to be a lot more competition amongst ourselves.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be a lot more people, and a lot of people did join into reselling when COVID happened. Because again, you get people who maybe had a job and then now they're home, maybe working from home, or maybe they got laid off. Mm-hmm. Right. And honestly, it's the best time if you get, not that being laid off is a good thing, but if you get laid off and there's a huge increase in the unemployment benefit that you're getting, there were some people who are making in some ways more than they were making mm-hmm. when they were working on unemployment, and you're home. Well, what are you going to do with your free time? You really got two choices. One is do absolutely nothing and let your life kind of just wither away. Because that's what happens when you Jeez, when you just sit. It's true though. When you sit around and you do nothing, and when you lose purpose and meaning in your life, like it's so negative. It has so many negative impacts on your health, your mental health. Yeah. So that's one option that some people took, and we've seen that there's been an increase in alcoholism and all kinds of things due to COVID.
Mental health issues.
Yeah,
It's been
absolutely.
rough.
The other side that people can take is, you know what? I'm in a rough place, but I've got some money coming in. Things are being covered. There's a stimulus check. I'm going to use this money and time that I have, and I'm going to do a side hustle. I'm going to figure out some way to maybe kind of under the table. And that's how a lot of people start reselling, is I'm going to just maybe sell some things in my house. I'm going to go around. I'm going to try this. Maybe they tried other types of, maybe they started an Etsy store. Maybe they, who knows, got into making NFTs. There's so many things people jumped into. I mean, that's why the stock market and crypto and all that stuff really took off. Is all of a sudden,
Dogecoin.
yeah, all of a sudden there's people home and they're getting money that they weren't necessarily expecting to have. And it's like, well, I should do something with this. And so there was, I think, an influx of new resellers, just like there's an influx in all kinds of things. Like I said, I think it was the last episode, the article that came out that's like 70% of Americans want a side hustle or have some kind of a side hustle. But again, I don't think this is too bad for us because one, it provides the validity to what we do, legitimacy. People kind of see it as this is a real thing. And I'd be surprised. I'm surprised at how many people, when I mention I'm a reseller, they're like, "Oh yeah, I used to sell on eBay for a little while, and I made a bunch of money. I used to sell these things."
It's changed.
Yeah, a lot of people have done it. Even if they've gotten out of it, they understand that it's a viable thing. But it's also a lot of hard work, and so I don't think most of the people who join stick around. I think our audience is pretty good. We have a pretty consistent audience, but even watching our metrics and kind of seeing certain things, we see that there's like probably every month, 10% of people who've been watching and listening for a significant amount of time drop off, and we get a new 10% coming in, right? And it's like, because I think that's just how reselling goes. People pick it up for 5, 6, 7 months, and then they drop off. And so there's always a new influx of resellers. And then there's always a max exodus of resellers kind of simultaneously happening. So maybe we have more now than we had before, but I still think it's not going to provide so much extra competition. Now, this could be depending where you're at locally too, though. You might be in a small town where 5 extra resellers just crushes you, right? So it depends on how big of an impact more resellers is going to have. But overall, I think the majority of resellers are not going to be impacted negatively by a handful of new resellers.
But I will say, I think there's a substantial growth. The reason I say that is I look at some of these YouTube channels that are massive, in reselling, right? Craigslist Hunter, Reezy, Rally Roots. I mean, all these individuals, Lindy Glenn, like not only hitting 100K, but being close to 200K or hitting past 200K subscribers. Like, if you
I want to get my my diamond play button. Help us get to 100K.
We'll put it right here. We'll toss this mug and we'll put it right there.
Yeah.
But if you were to tell me 5 years ago, like there would be YouTubers that do reselling that have 200K subscribers, I'd be like, no, that's crazy. Like, who would have thought, right? But now, and there are actually individuals that even over the last year, they've gotten to 100K. And to me, it's evidence of there's a lot more people in the reselling space. Now, the other competition in this post-COVID world are a lot more people thrifting, not reselling for example, but thrifting. And one of the reasons I know this, you see it all. And I mean, TikTok is a great platform to see where there's like the reselling world is growing on TikTok. But man, that thrifting world, like one of the hashtags is thrift to flip. And I remember, I was using some of those hashtags when I was making TikToks, and then I started researching it. And I thought it was like thrift to flip, like thrift to flip for money. And there's like close to 1 billion. And no, it's just people finding stuff in the thrift store and just, flipping them, like making them better.
Yeah.
Right. Like
upcycling.
Like Flip My Ride or something like that. Oh, yeah. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Oh, Pimp My Ride was the name of the show. Yeah. But you get what I'm saying.
But yeah, upcycling, that's the thing, right? Like people buy things and they make it nicer. Like they buy a bag, they buy another like leather, belt, and then they change the strap on the bag so that it has this leather belt with the rhinestones, and then they have this other thing. And so they make things nicer. Vintage furniture or, that kind of thing is really popular too.
Oh, yeah, people shabby chic stuff.
Yeah, shabby chic. People to sandpaper it and then put on some chalk paint and then weather that so it looks old, throw it in a store somewhere and sell it for a bunch of money.
But now we're in a whole different space. So what does that mean? That means we're all going to have to adapt. We're going to have to understand brands better. We're going to have to know what sells. I mean, gone are the days where I would just go to a thrift store and I could tell you in every thrift store I walked into, I'd walk out with at least $100 net profit easy every time. Like those days are gone. So that leads me to our second point. But before we do that, there is something that consistently has become better since its beginning, and that is AmericanBubbleBoy.com. So I actually ordered my American Bubble Boy today. I'm expecting to get it over the next day because one of the warehouses is nearby. But the prices haven't changed, but they keep getting better. They actually, and you're talking about, recycling sustainability. They actually have new bubble wrap that is recycled bubble wrap. So if, taking care of the environment and making sure that you're doing your part is something you enjoy doing, there's bubble wrap there that is not brand new that you can also help. So you're also being able to help yourself economically, and you're able to make a change in the world. So
environmental, economical benefit, environmental benefit.
There you go. So go to AmericanBubbleBoy.com. There is a link below. And, a lot of people ask us, do we have a code or anything? We don't. Link.
Please use the link.
Yeah, it's the link that does it. So the link helps us out, right? Because it's an affiliate link. And it also helps you out because instead of going through Amazon, you're going directly through AmericanBubbleBoy.com and getting the best price and the best shipping, whether it be same day, 2-day, or local pickup if you like. So check them out, AmericanBubbleBoy.com.
Yeah. All right. So now that you have your Bubble Boy wrap, there's kind of been some changes in sourcing and shipping, right? So we're already talking about shipping. Things are different. We talked a lot about differences in sourcing, right? Sourcing locally, trying to do all those things. And one of the things that we noticed, kind of going back to thrift store prices, is prices are going up across the board.
It's crazy. You would thought, I remember in the early days of COVID, everybody was saying, man, can't wait for thrift stores to open. They have so much inventory. There's going to be so much out there. We thought it was going to be like a free for all. And yeah, that didn't happen.
No. Yeah.
It got worse.
Yeah. And that's the bummer is I think so many places there's multiple effects. There's ripple effects to every decision, everything that happens. And so I think one of the ripple effects to businesses being closed for so long is everybody needs to figure out a way to recomp those costs, right? Nobody wants to see their Q2 report so much less than it was the previous year, because then it hurts all the shareholders. It hurts the board, all these things. And so they've got to find a way to get those numbers up. And so they've got to recoup those costs. And one of the only ways to do that is increase in inventory, especially as, the cost of operating business has gone up. I mean, I know, for instance, schools, each school district, San Diego school district got like something crazy, like $2 or $3 billion extra from the government to open up for the last 7 weeks of school in order to basically provide extra support on campus, to provide PPE for students, to provide COVID testing, all of these things.
Free lunches,
all these things that basically was like they got money for. But if you're a business and you didn't get that money, right? But you've got to find a way to make sure your employees have, testing if they need it. They've got masks, that you've put up the shields, you've done. So businesses don't just have infinite money, right? That money comes from somewhere. And so the only thing they can do is increase price of goods.
But I think what happened though with the thrift stores is due to the extra time, I think people had the ability to research more. You know what I mean? Because I know at some point in time, the donations did stop, right? I know here in San Diego, there was a time when they were turning away donations, right? So they had to work with what they had. And so I think just these stores became, they ended up doing what we would have done. They became more savvy about things, right? They understood what sells, what doesn't. And, I'm no longer in shock. That's the funny thing. It's at least here in San Diego, because when I post Instagram stories, people are like, it's crazy out there. And then that was like 6 months ago. And now when I post high prices, people are like, oh yeah, it's been happening here. It's been happening here. It's been happening here. And rarely does anybody ever say, oh, wow, our stuff is pretty cheap. I don't hear that anymore. That's done. And so, I'll go see a pair of Harley Davidson boots and they're selling for $59, $65. Sometimes I see them at 100. Video. I think when's the last time you saw anything Nintendo in a thrift store here in San Diego?
Yeah, right.
Right. It's crazy. I mean, I cannot think of the last time I saw anything like that. And so
we should open up a thrift store, man.
You think so?
Yeah, because then we can just get donations from people and then we can sell them.
Okay, all right, but I don't think it's that simple. Like, I think we have to jump through some more hoops.
Well, only if you're going to be. I'm not saying we have to be a tax free or a 501c3 nonprofit. We can be a for profit, but I think a lot of thrift stores that are for profit have donation centers.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about opening a pawn shop at one point in time.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Pawn shop or thrift? What should we open? Should we call it Pure Hustle? Would that put
No, yeah, that's not a good idea. Help us name our pawn shop / thrift store that we're never going to make.
Who knows? What if we, I don't know.
Because I'm still waiting. I remember when COVID first happened. This is on topic, but slightly off topic. I was expecting a crash in commercial real estate.
Yeah.
And I haven't I don't know if it's
actually,
happened yet or not.
didn't. I mean, I have a good friend of mine that's commercial real estate and it hasn't been that bad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe at some point it will get there because I think what's going to end up happening is, they had like eviction bans where like companies weren't necessarily getting evicted. And as that changes, who knows, maybe a bunch of these and businesses are going to downsize, right? They realize half their employees can work from home. They don't need these big buildings. So if commercial real estate drops, yeah, it might be worth starting a store. So that's just a tip out there for you guys. If that's something you're thinking about, that may or may not happen, but wait for the dip to buy.
Yeah. So anyways, back to our topic. So again, and prices on everything. I mean, we talked, we had
Milk,
Lindy.
gas.
Okay, but we're talking about reselling. But
those things matter.
They do matter. No, but remember when we had the interview with Lindy Glenn and we had asked her about pallets, and pallets, the prices have gone way up, right? Because everybody during COVID was looking for a way to source without leaving their home. And so people went to pallets, and those prices have stayed. It hasn't changed because there's a lot more resellers. I can tell you on the vintage market, some of my local deals that I go to, for example, I would pick up leather jackets. The price has tripled in those leather jackets. And so even those wholesale connections that I have, those prices have gone up. So prices have gone up all around. So again, it doesn't mean that reselling is done. You can, and we'll talk about mindset later on, but understand there's still ways to make it happen. A lot of it has to do with networking. A lot of it has to be do with researching, but there's still stuff out there. So we're not going to be completely negative. Now, the other thing I want to mention is things are a lot stricter than they used to be, right? And I talked about Amazon in the last update episode, how Amazon now is basically carried on their COVID policy from last year when COVID hit to now. And now you're limited on what stock you can send. But there's been a bigger change that's happened. And I would say it's been in the restriction on prices. So you got to be careful now, right? So I'm a big fan of steering away from places where, from inventory that your prices are going to be restricted. I think that limits your growth, right? And we saw that with Amazon. First, it started with the masks, and it started with the sanitizers, and it started with all the COVID related stuff. And then it just got to even like toys on Amazon, right? So you got to be really careful on what you source. And then we got into, I'm trying to tread lightly here, but stuff that most people, I would think, wouldn't find as offensive has now become offensive, right? And so cancel culture has taken over reselling. And so now you got to be careful about what you source, right? So where before, you would say, hey, I'm going to source this. Yeah, I don't know. But, I know there are collectors that look at things as historical items. That's gone. Now it's no longer things seen within a historical context. As a history guy, that's kind of troublesome to me, because I am a big believer in you got to remember the good and the bad of history, because in the end, if you remove all the bad, you have nothing holding you back from remembering what you shouldn't do, right? And so you got to be careful. So sourcing has become even more careful. I mean, I've picked up items in the past that, I'm like, and I've never listed them, but for sure now I'm never going to list. I don't even know what's going to happen to some of these items. They were picked up on accident as part of a bulk buy. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, that's going to end up like in a show of American Pickers when Orlando never sells all his stuff after 20 years. Right. But all I'm saying is you just got to be careful when you source. You got to be careful. You always got to pay. Now you have to pay attention to the news and trends far more. Before you had to pay attention to trends in the news because of, hey, something's trending, I can make money. Now it's something's trending. Whoops. I better not pick that up anymore.
Yeah. And there's a lot of examples of those, right? Like certain books, or another one that recently I noticed. I've sold a lot of like baby stuff, like the Bumbos. I've sold quite a few of those, or like baby carriers. And then there was kind of like a big pushback for a little while against certain baby carriers because people kind of saw it as appropriating African culture because that's what they used. Yeah. So then there was like people saying like, don't buy and sell these. And so, yeah, you just got to be careful because you don't know what is going to be the next thing. So just you got to keep an eye out. As long as your conscience is clean and you're selling what's okay, but you just got to know though that there might come a place in time where things that you are sourcing might be restricted on eBay and you can't sell it anymore.
So you got to think of multi-platform.
Yep.
Right. Because you got to understand eBay, Amazon, a lot of it's public relations, right? They're still about the bottom line. So if they feel that an item being sold on their platform is going to hurt their bottom line, they don't care. They'll remove it, right? All right. Another one that's changed, and I like this as a buyer, but shipping times, man, gone are the days. I mean, do you still use media mail?
Yeah, for certain books and stuff. If they're low price items, I'll use media mail because people usually don't care if it comes to them late. Or if it's like a really big, like if I'm selling like a huge collection of books, I'll ship through media mail because again, usually people are fine waiting the 5 to 10 days it takes to get there. But yeah, for the most part, shipping is definitely sped up. I mean, there was a time during COVID where shipping was so slow that
I remember
that now we're back in a place because there was a little while even on eBay where you could kind of be a little bit more lax about when you ship stuff out because it was like as long as it gets there, eBay's kind of excusing any complaints about shipping times. Well, I don't think they're doing that anymore, not to the same extent.
Those days are done, and I do believe that the resellers that end up taking advantage of the fact that, hey, you know what, people want their items fast, they're going to be the ones that are going to make more money because and this is a big debate on social media. I had posted something about shipping and somebody said, whoa, if you're going to the post office every day, like you have no life, like that's terrible. And somebody else is like, well, doesn't customer service matter to you? Right? Because there's certain, and I'm not, I get it. If your life situation makes it that you can only ship like once a week or every other day, understandable. Right? But if you're looking at scale, I do believe shipping times are going to have to be faster for you. I think it's a big deal. I think the algorithm definitely likes faster shipping. Did we forget our sound? We forgot our sound.
Wait, did you say
I said the A word.
Algorithm. All right. We're going to have another conspiracy episode at some point.
We do. Usually it's around like October when we drop those. Did we not drop one?
Maybe we make it like a Halloween conspiracy thing where it's not Halloween related, but it coincides with like spooky time of the year.
Spooky. All right. Hey, so a lot of change. Now, in our next segment, we do want to talk about what are some solutions? What are the things that we believe is going to help us all be successful in a post-COVID world? But before we get to that, we have our Hustle of the Week. But before we get to Hustle of the Week, if you have not been following us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are Pure Hustle Cast on Twitter and Clubhouse. We're also available by phone, 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. You can always shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. And as always, we are grateful for all of you that have helped us out financially through buymeacoffee.com/purehustle. You signed up for that yearly membership, and I'm telling you, it's pretty awesome. And Mike and I are gearing up here to do a virtual meetup here via Zoom. We're using Zoom. We're using something.
Yeah, Zoom.
We'll let you know. But we look, once things settle down and we got, we're recording all that established, we'll definitely make it happen. It'll be our first like Pure Hustle Plus scenario, and it'll be a lot of fun. So look forward to seeing you there. Again, helping us out financially, buymeacoffee.com/purehustle goes a long way. Mike and I have been trying to ramp up the videos, and any kind of, financial help to offset the cost definitely help us. And I'm trying to find our reviews, and I hit play on one of our podcasts.
That's okay. Probably didn't hear it.
So anyways, well, the reason I want to do that, I want to say thank you so much. Also, thank you for all of you that continue to help us out on the reviews. We are the most reviewed reselling podcast and the largest reselling podcast. And it's because of our incredible audience. We're at 439 in reviews, still getting closer to
And we're definitely the best podcast that you are listening to right now.
Yes, that is
100%
true.
the best.
So I wanted to read the last reviews. I always like reading these because people take the time to write them. I figure we should take the time to read some of these. So
let's do it.
Let's read the last two. This one came in from, actually, I'm going to read three. Let's do it. They're quick.
All right, let's do it.
This one comes from Walker's Woodworks.
Oh, I like that.
So thank you. It says, just started getting into reselling and these two have amazing info. The sound effects get stuck in my head too. LOL. Okay, and we got new ones. Hopefully, hey, let us know your comments on the sound effects. I'm interested.
Yeah. Good
and bad. Hopefully more good. It said, I was walking around the house saying, it's the freaking hustle of the week.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend was pretty confused. I'm sure. That is awesome. Keep it up, guys. Hashtag 500 Club.
Yeah. Got to make that 500 Club. Get here before we reach 500 reviews. So be here or be there or be square. I don't know. I was going to say something funny, but
it's all right. We'll keep rolling. All right. Next one came from Carly D. 2. And said, best of the best. My favorite reselling podcast out there. Listen to them daily, and they have saved me so much time and money. You know, I appreciate that because we share a lot of our fails to be able to help people. So that definitely helps. Their content is always super informational and real. They talk about the good and the bad, which I think is so important. I just really appreciate all the time they put into giving us free info. Just overall amazing, guys. ... I think winky face. I don't know how to take that one.
Yeah, you know, it's fine.
All right. And then last of all, from the dudes, bro.
Yeah. That's right, dude, bro.
Yeah. All right.
Broseph.
I love it. It said, very informative podcast from two bald, and there was no more space. But I'm sure he was going to say something.
Bald and beautiful.
Like bald giants. There's a G in there. So said I stumbled on this podcast via IG and I'm so glad I checked it out. I'm new to reselling. I've been binging this podcast. I can relate to most everything they talk about, and it's cool to hear how others are doing things. From a fellow bald, bearded, middle-aged dude, thank you. You guys are great.
Hey, you know, middle-aged, I don't like that. We're young. We are young.
We are 41. I think I got another 50 years, so I'm good, at least. So, hey, by the way, talking about bald, let's talk about Skull Shaver real quick. So today has been a busy day for me, and I had to get ready for the podcast, and I had to keep the smooth dome because how terrible would we be if we were Skull Shaver, I guess, influencers, ambassadors? I don't know what the exact title is. And I look scruffy up here. That wouldn't be good. So no. I grabbed my pit bull. Yeah, was I a couple minutes late to the podcast as usual?
That's why you were late?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh darn it.
I was shaving my head. But you know what? Because of the Skull Shaver, I wasn't 10 to 15 minutes late. I was only 2 minutes late. So that 90-second quick buzz definitely helps out. So if you want to maintain that clean, bald look, go to skullshaver.com. Use our promo code PURE, PURE. Thank you so much.
I like it.
All right, now it's for that awesome time.
Come on, hustlers. It's the freaking hustle of the week. Yeah, all right. Our first one comes from Jose, IG handle at J Kickflip Thrifts.
No, it's Kickflip Thrifts. I think that's my typo.
So typoed the J in there. So whoever is J Kickflip Thrifts, you're getting credit for something you didn't deserve. But the real person is at Kickflip Thrifts. Came across a set of 4 comic books at a thrift store for $1.49 each. Could have spent the time to get them graded, but decided to throw them up as a lot and hope for the best. They were in decent condition and would rather just flip than wait for them to get graded. Ended up getting the full asking price for a set of Miss Marvel Kamala 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7. Sold them all for $309.09. That's incredible. And, you know, I honestly think you're probably better off not grading, because right now the grading time, from what I've read, is like almost a year out, and you still have to pay a good amount of money unless you want to pay. It's like $300 to $600 to get it within like a couple of months, or like $1,000 or something crazy like that for a walk-in grade. Wow. So because Pokemon cards are up so high right now, and people are doing like trading cards and all of that stuff, the places that grade are just so backlogged. They literally just have just warehouses full of stuff they're waiting to grade. So it was probably wise to get this done, because you probably would have spent several $100s to get them graded, and maybe you could have made a lot more, but we're talking potentially a year out, and maybe you would have lost that money depending on the grade. Because if they'd have came back graded at like a 7 or an 8, and it wouldn't have changed the value much, you know. So I think you probably were wise doing that. Now, if it was a Babe Ruth rookie card, you know, maybe grade it. But I think that's $1.49 each for 4 of them, $309.
I think it was 4 of them. I put a bunch of numbers, but on the picture. So check out his Instagram. The post is there. You can determine how many there are, but it's a legit. I hear you. So I remember all those Pokemon cards on that YouTube video. By the way, if you haven't caught it, catch it out. It's about finding Pokemon cards at garage sales. I want to send them into grade.
No, don't do that. Unless you have like one of the rarest cards there is, and it's in great condition. You usually are only going to grade a card that you know is close to getting a 9 or higher. And cards like that have almost never been touched by a human hand.
Okay, I get it. Well, the other thing I'm waiting for eBay to do that program where like they just scan it and put all the info in.
I think it's already set up, isn't it?
Is it set up?
I think so.
Maybe it's time to start listing some Pokemon cards.
Yep.
So, hey, great job, Jose. All right. So this one, we've talked about Ertl before, right? Is a Bolo, is a hustle of the week. And man, is this a hustle of the week? So this is from Chase, IG handle Chase B423 on Instagram. So let me share with you guys what he shared with me. He said, okay, so I was at a yard sale and they had over 100 Department 56 houses. I bought them all for about $3 a piece. I sent you guys a pic about that a long time ago. Oops, I guess we didn't. That was a hustle of the week, but you know, we get so many hustles of the week. By the way, if you're not following that hashtag hustle of the week, you are missing out on some great bolos.
Yeah, and when you do those hustles of the week, we follow that hashtag, but also just throw hashtag Pure Hustle Podcast in there too to make it a little easier for us to find it. Because sometimes we don't see everything because there's so many of them now.
But tag like the @.
Yeah,
that's how it ends up on our feed.
Yeah, add us if you want it in our feed and just put hashtag Pure Hustle Podcast so people also reading it know. Because again, I don't think everybody who's now starting to use Hustle of the Week know what it is. So
we still dominate it. There's about 80, I think about 90% of the posts are there. And then there's some random stuff in there. So, all right. So but anyway, as I was leaving, went to yard sale. So this is after picking up 100 Department 56 pieces for $3 a piece. As he was leaving, the person that just sold it to him said she also had some Tennessee coin bank cards, but she wanted to finish research them a bit. We exchanged numbers. Remember, always leave business card. Okay. Exchange numbers. And she texted me a week later. I ended up getting 16 cards. These are all Ertl, by the way, ERTL. A blimp, a boat, and 4 airplanes for $5 each. I only have 4 cards left out of everything that he purchased. One card sold for $400. All right. The lowest price he sold any of the items he picked up was $55. I've sold one for $250, 3 for $200, and the others have ranged from $55 to $150. So, hustle of the week. It could be hustle of the month. This is huge. So, anyways, this is just intense. Like this is one of those things, Chase, where I really appreciate sharing these because it gives me hope when I go to garage sales. Like our biggest scores have been garage sales. Hands down, greatest ROI, the best treasure hunt ever. And so seeing something like this, tells me, I'm going to keep getting out there on Saturdays. And by the way, if you haven't been hitting that bell notification on YouTube, please do. Cause Mike and I think we're just dropping garage sale stuff every weekend. I mean, I haven't talked about this with Mike, but we may drop 2 in a weekend. I don't know if that's going to work out, but we'll figure out a time to drop them. So anyways, thank you so much. Chase, also known as Chase B423 on Instagram.
Yeah. All right. Our next one comes from Carrie and Kim, IG handle at Great Lake Flipper. So great_lakes_flipper. Came across a new and packaged vintage Laramie Super Soaker 100 water gun. Laramie. From the 90s. Paid $3 and listed on eBay. Became an unpaid item case, but the buyer eventually paid for $180 plus shipping. I gotta be looking at water guns, man.
Now, are you old enough to remember those big Super Soakers?
Yeah.
Okay, just wondering. There's a 10-year gap.
There were vintage Super Soakers when I was a kid.
I love those. I forgot to mention, I sold one of the mini ones. This is not my hustle of the week. I paid $1 at a garage sale. I sold it for $37 plus shipping. Right. So yeah, Carrie and Kim, awesome flip, great _lakes_flippers with the Super Soaker, because if they're new in package, man, they sell pretty quick too. Pretty quick. So keep an eye. This is what I love. We live in a time where stuff I grew up with is worth a lot. So
it just means you're old.
No.
I'm going back on what I said earlier about you being young.
I'm so 41, forever young. All right. Okay. What about our hustle? How about you go first?
All right. So my hustle of the week is one of the sales that I was at was a woman's club sale. I found a scuba bag, and the scuba bag was $5. And I looked up comps, and there were comps going for like $40 to $50, depending. And I'm like, that's not too bad for a bag. Bags are relatively simple to ship, but it was super heavy and there was stuff inside of it. And I look and it's got a couple of scuba tubes and some other things. And I'm like, but this is just so heavy. And I pulled out one thing. It's like a weighted belt. And I'm like, all right, there's some weight stuff in here, like connected to scuba diving, but I don't really know what this is, but the bag's worth it. So I'm carrying this bag around, and I get home, and as I'm recording my video of my haul, I pull out some of the stuff, and there's these packs that are like 4-pound packs of like little lead beads, and they're called sea pearls, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's just full of these sea pearl things. So this bag was probably like 40 or 50 pounds, and I'm just like carrying around this whole place. And then I look up those sea pearls, and they sell for a crazy amount of money. Mm-hmm. Like a pack of 4 of them, like $70, $80.
Yep.
And I'm like, I've got so much weight in here that are for these, diving weights or whatever. Holy cow. I bought this bag thinking the bag was the prize. The stuff inside the bag that I thought was just going to be garbage ended up being worth way more than the bag.
Yeah, you bring up bad memories for me, because I was at a garage sale, and there was a bag with that stuff in it. And I was going to look up comps. I'm like, who's going to buy this? Like, who's going to pay for this? And I walked away. And then the moment I walked away, another person snagged them and looked up comps, and they're like, all right, how much do you want? And they're like $5. And it was like $100 bag of them.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a hustle.
Yeah, it's surprising. So it's on my video that I posted. So if you haven't watched the video yet, go check it out. It's my most recent haul video, kind of walking around. That day was so intense. I actually am going to make 2 videos. So one of them just dropped on Friday. The next one will drop in probably a couple weeks, because I think you're doing the next Saturday. So yeah, so check out, make sure you're subscribed to YouTube if you want to see that haul, see some of the things I picked up, and see the shocked look on my face. And I'm like, oh, these things are valuable.
Yeah, it just, so crazy. All right. So we're going to travel back in time. Do we have like a time effect, a time sound?
No,
not yet.
Not yet.
Memories. So 2 years ago, I was at a garage sale. And in this garage sale was an individual that had worked for Snap-on. And so this is a bolo. Anything Snap-on, pretty much I would pick up. And so he had a bunch of jackets and he had a bunch of stuff. And you always want to ask, hey, do you have any other items you're willing to sell? He's like, oh, come back with me. So in his garage, he had a bunch of cabinets, and he was opening, and he had all these like die-cast Snap-on items. And one of the boxes, he had Snap-on clocks. Like those wooden clocks that are like from the 70s or 80s that you like put up on your wall, right? He had about 30 of them, brand new inbox. And, I'd asked him, I said, hey, what are you thinking on these? And eventually we agreed on a price. He agreed to $5 each. So I have had them for a while. Now, I'm the only one that has them on eBay. I think there might be others now, but when I first listed, I was the only one. So I'm like, somebody had listed, I had listed it at a crazy price of like $200 each, right? So I was like, and this was a time when, even now, you understand most buyers don't know like how to figure out what the best offer actually was, right? I've shared a lot about going to Slabwatch, and you can actually look at best offer prices. That's a Chrome extension. Actually, we have a video. If you go to the YouTube video I've made, 90-day comps aren't enough. You'll hear me talk about it. So I listed these. And again, I know I get people come at me all the time like, Orlando, how long do you list things for? 2 years, 5, a decade? Well, these items I've had for 2 years, but there's been an uptick. Now I've sold some of them already. I already made my money back. Remember, $5 a piece for 30, that's 150. I had these listed for $199.99. Okay, so I sold my first one for 170. I'm in the profit. In the last, I would say 2 months, I've had an uptick. I've sold 3 of them. I sold one for 140. I sold one for 75, and I think I sold the other one for like 120. Already in the green. So here's the deal. If you ever find anything Snap-on, most of the time it's worth picking up. And then if your cost is low, it's okay. If you make your money back within 2 weeks, who cares how long it sits? Especially now with, eBay, you don't get charged if you have a premium store until you go past 10,000 listings on certain items. Totally worth it. But I include it as a hustle a week because these are they're super easy to ship too, because I just gotta, do a quick bubble wrap, throw in a medium flat rate box, good to go. Right. And they don't get returned because these are collectible. Like, this is somebody that has a memory that they share with some of these. So anyways, that is my hustle of the week.
I like it.
All right. So what do we do now? We're living in a post-COVID world. Reselling has changed. Prices have gone up. Demand for faster shipping is there. Competition has increased. What do we do? I would say the first thing is, you got to change your mindset. If all of that causes you to go, I'm done with reselling, that's not the right approach. I think that's common sense.
Yeah, you've got to adapt. And here's the thing. Difficult situations are actually a really good thing. It's good for you if it's an individual thing, because it kind of pushes you. You learn your limits. You learn to push past it. You accomplish something. But if everybody across the board is experiencing it, what this actually does is it allows you the opportunity to actually rise to the top. Because when things are going normal, when everything's kind of just going as it is, there's kind of already an established hierarchy, and it's difficult to change that. But then when things get really challenging, when there's a big shakeup, when there's a black swan event, we've seen it happen with, whenever there's a huge economic crash, that's when the biggest amount of wealth changes hands, right? Mm-hmm. Because people who maybe didn't have a chance before, they weren't in a position, now can capitalize on it. And next thing you know, they're at the top. And so I'm not saying that every person who's listening to this podcast is going to be a top 1% seller and is going to end up becoming a multimillionaire. But when things change and things get really difficult, a lot of people are going to quit. A lot of people are going to keep doing the same old, and they're going to stagnate, and they're going to, maybe their stores are going to start slipping. And this is your chance to say, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to push through this. And the people who do that, the people who are willing to keep pushing through and figure it out and adapt, are going to come out on top. And the people who are stuck doing the same old and they're not willing to change, they're not willing to adapt, they're going to, at best, stay the same. And at worst, they're going to lose, right? And so in some ways, reselling is not a zero-sum game. But when it comes to total competition, total marketplace on eBay, all of those things, in some ways it is a zero-sum game, because as other people are failing or not trying, if you're willing to figure it out, maneuver, you can find yourself, next thing you know, at the top. And it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be a lot of focus, but that's the mindset you have to have. You have to look at a challenging situation and say, this has been a life-altering thing for many people in the country. How can I make sure I come out of this on top? Because most people aren't thinking that way. Most people end up getting into a victim mindset, and they're like, well, this is how it is. And they come up with excuses. So the people who do end up making it. And so you kind of got to look at a situation like this of, this is an opportunity. This obstacle is actually an opportunity, because if you can overcome it, it's going to put you in a better position, because most people have the mindset of, well, there's an obstacle now. I guess things are just the way they are. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
All right. What was the saying that are old? What was the saying that are old? It is what it is.
Oh, it is what
we
it
had
is.
We had a principal. So
which he wasn't like this at all, but that was one of his phrases.
Yeah, he hated that phrase. It is what it is. He hated that phrase. He didn't like when people said that phrase.
I still throw it on him every time. He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, and I think there's a place for it where it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to let things bother me. But I think some people use that phrase, and the reason why some people hate that phrase is because for many it's an excuse. Well, it is the way it is. I can't do anything about it. No, you can do something about it. Do something about it.
I'm telling you, I only see reselling getting better. I think what all these changes are going to do, it's going to weed out individuals, and it's going to put those that are willing to put in the work and source and network and find items and list them and continue moving. It's just going to create greater profitability. And yeah, maybe we're going to see an upsurge in reselling, but I would say most resellers that have been reselling for the last 20, 30 years will tell you that there are waves of reselling. They come and go and they come and go. I mean, I even think about YouTube, like a lot of individuals I watched 10 years ago, they're no longer reselling. And there's a lot of them that still are, and they're even more profitable than they were 10 years ago. Even though all of these resellers have showed up on the scene, they're doing better than pretty much most people that watch them. They know what they're doing. And so, you know, the scarcity mindset will hold you back going, there's nothing out there. Everything's too expensive. I can't ship as fast as others can. You know, there's just too much. I don't like going out there. that will hold you back. But if you look at it as, hey, you know what? More resellers means that there's more people looking to get online. I've always said this, the more people get on eBay, the better it is for eBay. Because what that means is that eBay continues to be a viable platform that people will go to buy and sell, right? Because even though, and Mike and I think disagree on some of this a little bit, but even though Mercari and Poshmark and all these other platforms are showing up, they're still not anywhere close to where eBay or Amazon is. Even FB Marketplace, Facebook, like there's a lot of growing pains. Now, will they get to a place where, they're going to be able to definitely compete against eBay? Very possible. But again, if fees become something that holds you back, then you're not seeing the bigger picture of like, hey, I'm paying literally pocket change to sell on eBay to a global audience. Like we talk about this stuff all the time, but your mindset has to be that this is for the best and I'm going to make things happen. All right. How about experimenting sourcing? Like we just dropped, did we just drop a YouTube? We've dropped a few lately about items that don't sell as fast anymore.
Yeah, I think we just dropped that one. So yeah, I mean, you gotta experiment. And I think that's, the interview we had with Craigslist Hunter has always stuck with me with the idea of every year, try two or three, even just one new niche, right? Just learn something. And so I've been learning tools. I've dropped a couple tool videos. I'm probably gonna drop some more here pretty soon. And it's funny because as I'm cleaning out my inventory and I'm using, my wife had this old hammer that she got when she went on a mission trip that they gave to her as like part of, the mission trip team. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, holy cow, this is a plum hammer. This is like a really nice hammer. Right. And before that, I wouldn't have known. And now I'm picking up tools. When I'm at places, I'm like, ooh, made in the USA. Ooh, this is a Stanley Sweetheart item. Ooh, and I'm seeing things that I never saw before and I'm making money. So you gotta be willing to branch out and experiment, and even like watching videos. So not the YouTube video that just dropped of me garage selling, but I have another one that's going to drop here pretty soon. I'm watching and I'm like, man, I missed that. Oh, I did not negotiate very well here. I gave a number and as quickly as they took it, I could have gone up lower, right? Like they were like 100 and I'm like, oh, how about 90? Sure. I'm like, dang, I should have said 80, right? And so experimenting and figuring it out, right? Whether it's you're negotiating, whether it's the items you're picking up, different types of items. Yeah, you never know until you try. And the thing is, don't all in switch, right? If you're a vintage clothing seller, don't just like stop buying that and start buying used electronics, right? Buy a little bit of used electronics, but keep doing what you're doing, but experiment with other things because you might find a brand new lane that you're going to join.
Yeah, agreed. So, Mike and I, we dropped that video about brands that don't sell as fast as they used to. COVID changed a lot. It changed, in the beginning of COVID, it was very much about people buying what they needed, right? And then after time, people were trying to, spend time at home. They couldn't leave. Then people were buying what they needed to stay entertained. Then after that, people had extra money because the government was giving people money. And so there was an influx. Anytime a stimulus check dropped, right, we had a rise in sales. And the stuff that was selling wasn't needs, it was wants. For the most part. I don't sell anything that people need. People don't need my inventory, right? And so what this means is, understanding that, hey, just like anytime you resell, like looking at the market, what sells, what doesn't sell, and you may have been used to just selling a certain item. I see this all the time. You can go down the dark rabbit hole of these forums about reselling on Reddit and other sites. People are like, yeah, I remember back in the day, I used to pick these up and now you can't even sell them anymore. It's all eBay's fault. It's all these new YouTubers dropping videos, and you hear that all the time. But no, the reason that person isn't selling those items is because buyers don't want it anymore. Like it's done. Like there was a time for that. And so be willing to experiment sourcing. Also on the practical side, be able to experiment sourcing about, hey, maybe you've only done thrift stores. Maybe it's time to do more garage sales, or maybe you've just done garage sales and that's not working out. So maybe you need to do pallets, or maybe you need to find a wholesale distributor, or maybe it's time to do more retail. Like start experimenting because you gotta be able to be flexible. One of the reasons I think I've been able to be full-time, and this is now wrapping up my third year, going on to my fourth, and my business is only getting better, is because I've constantly experimented. The only place I haven't experimented in is private label. But I haven't done pallets, but I've done wholesale buys, which are kind of like pallets, right? You get a box instead of a pallet, right? Of vintage gear and so on. And I will tell you, diversifying, like for me, if I can't find anything at thrifts and thrifts aren't going well, I can go to garage sales. If garage sales aren't working out, I know how to retail arbitrage. If I can't retail arbitrage on Amazon, I know how to retail arbitrage on eBay. And I'm not saying this out of arrogance. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to do a humble brag. And what do you think about humble brag? The term humble brag. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It does? Okay. I'm just saying I've experimented enough that whatever position I'm in, I can pivot and I can make things happen. So I encourage you guys to experiment in your sourcing. Then last of all, I think this is going to be the game changer. It's just providing better customer service. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, customer service is really important. And one of the nice things about being on eBay or Amazon is you're kind of already lumped in with those companies' reputation with customer service. So you get the benefit, especially if you're using things like returns. Even if you don't do free returns, I don't do free returns. I just do 30-day returns, and that helps. Obviously, doing free returns would help a little bit more. But when I make a mistake, or if a customer is unhappy and I'm willing to do the return, and there's a lot of times I don't do free returns, but where a customer for whatever reason is doing a return, and I'll pay the shipping because it's like, okay, maybe if it's like it didn't fit, I'm sorry, you're paying the shipping. But if they get it and they're like, you know what, like this item, I know it's used, but like this knob is actually not the right knob. Like they changed this, and this is aftermarket, and it's like, all right, you know what, I'm going to cover shipping back, right? Like not a big deal. Like this, I would be upset if I was you too, right? And so when I do those things, I think it puts you a step above. It ensures that you've got good metrics, and when you're doing those things, one, it's going to help you potentially with return customers. And I don't really feel like I get lots of those. I get a few of those for certain things. But the other thing that it does is it helps you in the algorithm. The algorithm is important.
So, there's going to be an influx of new sellers, right? And a lot of people are scared to do, like you said, returns. A lot of people are scared to take certain offers. A lot of people aren't going to be willing to take that extra step. And I understand when you first start reselling, like, you worked hard to get the item, you wanted it listed, like anybody, asking anything extra, you're like, no, this is online. Like, I don't even know who you are. Like, why am I going to spend my time trying to provide good customer service? But I'm telling you, if there's anything that I think that's going to separate sellers along with better sourcing and experimenting with sourcing and changing your mindset, it's going to be providing good customer service, especially right now, because with a bunch of new sellers, what I find out is that there's yesterday, I'll give you an example. So yesterday I had somebody who wanted to buy a pair of cowboy boots. And so they offered me half price, and I took it because it was a slow day. But I still ended up, I had like a $700 day on eBay, not a bad day. And I think it was, I don't know if we need to do the sound effect again, but it triggered the algorithm, right? And so what happened, they messaged me and they're like, hey, I can't have you ship this to this address. I need it shipped to another address. So I messaged them back. I said, hey, per eBay policy, I can't do anything about changing addresses. You're going to need to, we're going to need to cancel, and you have to repurchase with your new address on file. They never got back to me. So I relisted the item still, and I sent them the link, and I said, here it is with the price we agreed upon. Just a heads up, in the last 2 minutes, I got 2 new offers from people wanting this pair of boots. And the reason they wanted them, because since my price dropped by 50% on the listing, and I was getting even lower offers, right? Well, eventually this guy messages me, and he's like, hey, I'm an old man that loves buying boots, and I really would appreciate if you could cut me a deal on this one. I'm not going to respond to that, right? It's already pretty cheap, like pay full price. So then an hour later, he goes, so you just ignore people's requests, huh? You drop the price, and then you don't want to help anybody out? I ignore that, right? So then the other person never repurchased the boots. So I put it back to the 100, I think it was $134.99. So the guy messaging me back. He's like, whoa, not only do you ignore people, but now you double your price of your items. Now, I could have been annoyed and been like, you know what, man? Like, ignored him, whatever. So I just messaged him back. I said, hey, listen, here's what happened. Somebody's going to buy it. I dropped the price for them. They would agree to. You're welcome to buy it at this price. And I put LOL. And he's like, haha, sorry, man. I was just being sarcastic. He started backpedaling, right? So then he messages me. He's like, listen, I would love to buy those boots, but all I have is $58 plus to cover the shipping in my PayPal. Now, I could have been like, I'm not doing this.
You didn't block him?
I didn't block him.
Like I feel like old Orlando would have just blocked him the first time he gave you any sass.
No, because Orlando's about customer service. So, which some of you do you think I'm crazy? So, anyways, here's the thing.
I'd have blocked that guy.
Here's what happened. The guy bought the boots. He paid for them. I paid I think I paid like 10 or 15 bucks. Yeah. Would it have been nice to get the 100 for them? Sure. But here's the thing. The boots were worn. There was a black stain. It was on ostrich boots. So I don't know if I would have gotten the 100. And on top of that, the moment I sold them, guess what? I had a bunch of other sales that happened after. So I believe that my customer service came through. If you think I'm crazy and wrong and I should have blocked, let me know in the comments.
I would just imagine in a situation like that, your chances of negative feedback are way higher. Like that's a customer who's going to get the boots.
See, but I don't fear that. This is why I don't fear that. A few reasons. eBay will see all the messages and will see that I did everything to provide customer service to this individual. And if they're not happy with it, I'm just going to say, return it for a full refund. I'm safeguarded. I'm good. I am not worried. And that's what I mean. I think customer service is going to make the difference. Now, was that the best of example? Probably not. But I wanted to share customer service will definitely help increase your sales, will help you in this post-COVID world. And I think it's going to make the major difference because I think gone are the days where you could just sell stuff, not offer returns, not communicate with buyers. I think COVID changed all of that and made it next level because there's so many more people and there's so much more expectations now because of this COVID that happened last year. But hey, there's so much opportunity to level up your standard of living through reselling.
Yeah.
And with that being said, always make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Late.
Peace.